Okay, hello, this is November 1st, 2025, and we are so honored and privileged to have Matthias Determann as our speaker today. And we have his credentials, his publications, and that he teaches at Virginia, I believe it's Commonwealth University. It's all in chat. So if you will just click on chat, those of you who are here, he has awards. He is a trailblazer in the field of teaching science fiction, not only in the Anglophone US world, but globally. And I want to mention in particular that this talk, among others, like the one that Ahmad Aisha gave, are all a part of the Forey Ackerman Memorial Science Fiction Global Ambassadors Series. Forey Ackerman was a trailblazer during the Cold War, going across all boundaries and making Eastern European and Russian and Chinese and Japanese and Asian and Middle Eastern, all kinds of science fiction figures known in the United States. And we need figures like that today. I'll put his profile again into the chat and where you can find Forey Ackerman's papers. And now I will turn this over to our honored guest speaker, who is so kind to come to us live from Qatar, from Doha today, Matthias Determann. Take it over.
Thank you so much. Good to see you all. Good to speak to you all. Big thanks, Gloria, for having me. It's a really great honor. And I love how Zoom sort of connects all of us wherever we are in the world. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect, wonderful. So it gives me great pleasure to talk to you about science fiction and astrobiology in the Muslim world. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Germany, but I lived in different countries, including in Qatar for the last 12 years. I've been a science fiction fan since a child. I've grown up with Star Trek. I've grown up with Star Wars. I was born in 1984, so that's an easy date to remember for all science fiction fans. So I grew up in particular with Star Trek, the original series, Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and with the original Star Wars trilogy and with the prequel trilogy in particular. And I've had a fascination for a long time with other worlds, perhaps because I've spent a lot of time as a foreigner, as an alien in different countries. So most of my life has not been spent in Germany, but I've lived in Austria, in Malta, in Saudi Arabia, in the United Kingdom, and in Qatar. I'm also married to somebody who's not German and who's not Qatari either. My wife is Indian. So I feel very much connected to sort of ideas of transnationalism, of crossing borders, and so on. So I'm very, very honored to be part of this lecture series. And I've been interested in sort of other worlds here on Earth, like the Islamic world, like the Muslim world, but also other worlds in outer space, other planets, other galaxies, other universes, everything that science fiction has to offer. And I've been very, very interested in like the connections between those. These are two pictures of me, one from this year, 2025, with stormtroopers here in front of a shopping mall, Galeria shopping mall in Meshaydeb, that's the neighborhood of Doha in which I live. And about 20 years ago, almost, in Tunisia in 2006, at one of the original Star Wars sets. So yeah, 20 years ago, I was already fascinated with these kinds of connections, how the Muslim world sort of contributed to one of the greatest science fiction epics of all time, and not just this particular one, right? So if Star Wars was partly shot in Tunisia, and if the name Tatooine, the name of that desert planet, is named after a Tunisian town, well, then this is not the only major desert planet that is inspired by the Muslim world. Another major franchise is, of course, the Dune franchise, where the connections to the Muslim world are much more explicit. So a lot of like the Fremen language is inspired by Arabic. The Fremen traditions are inspired by Middle Eastern and Muslim cultures. And I think there are these really rich connections between other worlds, life in the universe, science fiction and the Muslim world that I've had the great joy of exploring, but at the same time, I feel I've only just scratched the surface of this particular topic. So I feel so much more can be researched and written about it. Now, at the time of the making of the first Star Wars movies, and even like Star Trek, the original series, and Star Trek, the Next Generation, other worlds outside of our solar system were like truly just science fiction. Since then, astronomy has become incredibly exciting through the discovery of exoplanets over the last 30 years. So since the mid-1990s, I think we have confirmed over 6,000 exoplanets by now, including like very famous discoveries, such as the discovery of the TRAPPIST-1 planets. Those are 7 Earth-like planets orbiting a star called TRAPPIST-1. This particular announcement of like 7 possible other Earths sort of made news perhaps everywhere around the world. But it is also interesting because it had major contributors from Muslim majority countries. So this is the article announcing 7 temperate terrestrial planets around the nearby ultra-cool dwarf star TRAPPIST-1. And you can see here authors with Arab names: Khalid Barqawi, Yassin al-Mliki, Zuhair bin Khaldun. And if you look at their affiliations, you could see the Ukaimeden Observatory at Qadi Ayad University in Marrakesh, Morocco, and then the King Abdullah Center for Crescent Observations and Astronomy at the Mecca Clock in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. So these are astronomical institutions, but especially the second one is also a religious institution, right? So the religion of Islam is very closely associated with the moon, and the observation of the crescent is important for the Islamic lunar calendar, for the determination of the start and the end of Ramadan, the month of fasting in particular. But it is interesting to see this institution in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca, the holiest city of Islam, also being engaged in cutting edge exoplanet research. Qatar itself has also discovered and named at least 10 extrasolar planets. This is a Qatari astronomer, Khalid As-Subai'i, in front of models of planets called Qatar 3b, Qatar 4b, and Qatar 5b, all discovered through the Qatar Exoplanet Survey, which in itself is a Qatari project, but also a transnational project that uses a telescope in New Mexico. The discovery and confirmation of so many exoplanets, over 6,000 of them by now, as I mentioned, have also given new energy to this field of astrobiology, the study of life in the universe. This is a field that has grown tremendously over the last years and decades, but it is also a field that has existed since the beginnings of the Cold War, with people from Muslim majority countries contributing from the beginning. So here you have Gavriil Tikhov, a member of the Academy of the Kazakh Socialist Soviet Republic, publishing a paper in 1955 on whether life is possible on other planets. So this is a researcher based in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan was, of course, at the center of Soviet space efforts, right? Through the very, very famous spaceport of Baikonur, the first satellite, the first man, the first woman, the first dog all went into space. And until today, Baikonur is the most important Russian spaceport. So it's perhaps not surprising that Kazakhstan, as at the time a Soviet republic, but also a Muslim majority land, would also be involved in speculations about life in the universe. And Gavriil Tikhov of the Kazakh Academy, he also coined a term called astrobotany, so the study of plant life in the universe. And he was especially interested in studying plant life in very, very cold, very, very dry parts of Central Asia, again, sort of Muslim majority parts of the world, very, very dry and very, very cold parts of Central Asia. So places that he felt were similar to the conditions that we have on Mars. So he felt, well, if plant life could adapt to very, very high mountains and in Central Asia with very little rainfall, maybe these plants could also adapt to the conditions of Mars. So since the 1950s, astrobiological research has been undertaken in the Muslim world. That includes people in Muslim majority countries, but it also includes people from the Muslim diaspora. So there's an astrobiology network of Pakistan, founded by Nuzair Khawaja. He is now based in Germany, but he has still very, very important connections to his homeland, Pakistan. He published recently a paper, for instance, on the macromolecular organic compounds from the depths of Enceladus. Enceladus being a moon orbiting Saturn. Here I highlighted his name, Nuzair Khawaja, as well as a German colleague, Fabian Klenner, who is also a member of the Astrobiology Network of Pakistan. So he described the discovery of essentially large, complex organic molecules coming out from the deep, from under the ice crust of Enceladus. So from the icy oceans possibly being thrown into space by very, very hot, energetic vents. This is not the same as finding life on Enceladus, but it is at least finding the building blocks of life. So we have Muslims being interested in exoplanets, but also in possible components of life here in the solar system. In recent years, there have been more investments in space research and solar system research, in particular by the United Arab Emirates. There is an Emirates Mars mission with an orbiter that is currently orbiting Mars and studying the Martian atmosphere. Not looking for life per se, but certainly sort of looking for studying the past history of Mars, finding out more about the atmosphere, the desert climate there, the UAE obviously being a desert country, is also trying to find out whether one can learn things about life on Mars, about whether one can find out things from the atmosphere of Mars that could also be helpful for understanding climate on Earth, climate in the United Arab Emirates in particular, and also climate change, of course. So currently the UAE has an orbiter on Mars, but it also has a very ambitious project to build a city on Mars by the year 2117, so less than 100 years from now. This project was recently announced at a World Government Summit in Dubai, and computer-generated imagery has been produced, such as this one, and including also a video that we had some problems with the sound here earlier that we were not able to fix, so I'll just narrate a little bit about the video. So here you can see a rendering of what is called the City of Wisdom. So the city that the UAE tries to build within the next 100 years. City of Wisdom being a reference to the House of Wisdom, which is a center of Arabic and Islamic science during the Abbasid Caliphate, a center of translation, a center of the transmission of Greek and ancient Persian knowledge to the Arab elites of Iraq and of the Abbasid Empire. Like in this video here that's being produced, there's also reference being made like to the deserts of the Arab world, the Bedouins, and so on. So this is a very utopian project of a city on Mars, but it's also one with like historical connections that the creators are trying to make. Historical connections to the Arab world. And if this doesn't sound like science fiction enough, then the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center in Dubai, which is one of the main space research organizations in the United Arab Emirates, has also explicitly produced science fiction. But there's a children's magazine called The Red Planet, which exists in English as well as Arabic, that features an alien encounter. So where you have Irene and her sister Lamika coming across an alien through a space journey. So this is the United Arab Emirates. In Qatar, which is a country that is a little bit smaller than the United Arab Emirates, but that doesn't quite have the same space ambitions, although, as I mentioned, Qatar does have the exoplanet survey as well. There is still a very, very vibrant extraterrestrial culture here. This is an essay from 2008 about the gaze of sci-fi Wahhabi, theoretical pulp fiction and serialized videographic adventure in the Arabian Gulf. And there you can already see a connection between science fiction and religion, Wahhabism being the dominant conservative current of Sunni Islam that is dominant in both Qatar and the Qatar and Saudi Arabia in particular. The author of this blog, where she reflects on Islam, science fiction, the Arabian Peninsula, is Sophia Al-Maria. She is a Qatari American author, with a Qatari father and an American mother, and she kind of grew up between the US and Qatar, between Arabian and American culture, and she described herself as the girl who fell to earth in a memoir, a book that she wrote, a memoir that is very, very much space themed, where she reflects on herself being an alien. And in the dedication of this particular book, she includes an Arabic recording from the Voyager spacecraft Golden Record, where it says, "Greetings, may time bring us together." In Arabic, "Tahiyatuna lil asdiqai fi nujum, ya layta yajma'ana az-zaman." So the Voyager spacecraft Golden Record, that's a very famous disk that accompanied the Voyager spacecraft on their journey out of the solar system. And there were different kinds of greetings in different languages, including in Arabic. So there you can see already, these were Voyager missions from the 1970s, Arabs thinking about possibly meeting aliens. There is also an emerging film industry in Doha, and that includes a science fiction film industry. One of the films that Sophia Al-Maria, this Qatari American artist, was involved in producing is Topaz Duo Cosmic Phoenix. Here you can see a poster with the skyline of Doha, and you can see an extraterrestrial demon from outer space here with a threatening pose over the skyscrapers of Doha. There have also been friendly aliens. So one particular example is Kaukabani. This was, here you can see Kaukabani, the alien landing in Doha. This was a video produced in the year of the FIFA World Cup, so the soccer or football World Cup, where Qatari authorities had the idea that they wanted to sponsor a video that would introduce aliens, so alien visitors, foreign visitors who came to Qatar for the first time for the FIFA World Cup. would that this video would introduce them to Qatari culture, and the idea is that the idea is that essentially an alien crash lands in Doha, in the desert outside of Doha, and then the local Qataris would essentially go on adventures with him and explain Qatari culture to the alien, and thereby also to the international audience who watched the video. So this is Kaukabani, Kaukab being an Arabic word for planet or star. If you're sort of interested in like diving into like the ET culture, the astrobiological culture that exists, you can do that on YouTube, but you can also do that on Instagram. Here are some handles of artists that you can follow. There is Murat Alpa, for instance, from Turkey. Here he combined a traditional Ottoman miniature style with a Star Wars movie, so you can see the Death Star in the background. But you can see a sitting or kneeling Sultan as Darth Vader. You can see Jedi Knights in the foreground, all in sort of a traditional Islamic style. This is an artist from Qatar. The Instagram handle is @retro QA for Qatar.jpg, where he combines old photographs of Arabs, Muslims in the desert with alien imagery. Another author and artist is Ayham Jabbar. This particular collage also made it into the PR that you, Gloria, so kindly sent out to people. Ayham Jabbar lived through the Syrian civil war that ended about a year ago with the fall of Damascus, and for a very long time, sort of, he felt Damascus was under siege during that civil war. And Ayham Jabbar, a graphic designer from Damascus, worked through these feelings of being under siege through a collage series with the title Damascus Under Siege, but where it is aliens, alien spaceships attacking Damascus. So you can see here like political themes being expressed through art involving extraterrestrials. So instead of having, let's say, Israeli planes attacking Damascus, you would have flying saucers shooting down ray beams on the city. Ayham Jabbar combining here old photographs of the city with images that he found on the internet. These particular images that I just showed you are all pre-generative AI. But now with generative artificial intelligence, we can see an explosion of futuristic art. Perhaps nowadays it's, it has never been easier before to make futuristic concept art in particular, right? Combining different alien and extraterrestrial and religious motifs. One particular account that I'm a fan of is Muslim.futures. This is AI art prompted by Peter Gold using a program called Midjourney, where he imagines like what Muslims could be experiencing in the future. So you can see hijab, headscarf wearing Muslim space explorers, but you can see what a futuristic Mecca might look like. You can see other kinds of desert planets with, again, sort of figures that remind us of Muslims today. So you can check that out. That's muslim.futures. He also has a book out that is Peter Gold together with Rehan Khan called Tales of Khayal. And Khayal is the Arabic word for imagination. It also exists in the Arabic word for science fiction. So Arabic word for science fiction is Khayal al-Ilmi, the scientific imagination. Tales of Khayal is tales of imagination in Arabic. So there is really a lot of science fiction happening in different media, in art forms, in books, on Instagram, in film, and so on. But how sort of can we connect this to like the history of astrobiology elsewhere? So we do have major histories of the extraterrestrial life debate. I want to show you just here two classics, one by Michael J. Crow and one by Stephen J. Dick. So those of you who've been interested in aliens and astrobiology, you most probably have come across these authors and perhaps these particular titles. However, these two books, they don't actually talk much about the Islamic tradition. There are other books that focus more on religions. So, for instance, Thomas O'Meara, Vast Universe, Extraterrestrials, and Christian Revelation, or Jennifer Rosato and Alan Winslet's Extraterrestrials in the Catholic Imagination. Now, as these titles suggest, again, these books tend to focus more on what the encounter, the discovery of aliens could mean for Christians. There are some other books that cover more religions than just Christianity. There's David Weintraub's Religions and Extraterrestrial Life. How will we deal with it? And then there's Ted Peters' Astrotheology. These books, they all have chapters on Islam, but given that Islam is a religion with a history of 1,400 years and with around 2 billion adherents, you can imagine that sort of maybe one chapter sort of hardly does the connections between Islamic theology and astrobiology justice. So at the beginning of this talk, I mentioned how I feel I've barely scratched the surface. I want to reiterate that, just saying how much more we need to research and we can research in this particular topic. Astrobiology is, of course, very closely related to science fiction. Like, after all, right, we haven't found alien life yet, or we don't have confirmed evidence yet of the existence of life in the universe. So in many ways, like, all the ideas that we have of aliens are products of the imagination. Now, is there something specific about the Muslim world when it comes to science fiction? Science fiction obviously has a certain richness and a certain tapestry in every language that it exists, including the languages of the Muslim world, languages like Arabic, Turkish, Persian, Indonesian. However, it's also interesting because Muslim majority countries, most of them are located in the global south. Most Muslim majority countries have experienced colonialism. And colonialism is very interesting when it comes to the topic of astrobiology and life in the universe, because often when we tell stories about life in the universe, right, it's either us colonizing other planets, right, us humans going to other worlds and colonizing them, or it is about aliens coming to Earth, invading us. And Muslim majority societies, most of whom would have experienced like colonial invasions, for them, that science fiction theme has maybe deeper resonances compared to readers like from a society that hasn't been colonized in recent times. So if you think about Iraq, for instance, and there's a story collection, Iraq Plus 100 stories from a century after the invasion, and the invasion here being the 2003 invasion that was American-led of Iraq, leading to the toppling of the Saddam Hussein regime, and so on. So here you have stories of what Iraq could look like. There's a similar collections, Palestine Plus 100, stories from a century after the Nakba. The Nakba is the event in 1948 that saw the expulsion and the fleeing of Palestinians from most of what is today Israel. And science fiction has proved itself to be a very fertile area for talking about Palestine, right? Palestine is a very sensitive topic. Palestine, Israel, the conflict there is something where a lot of people in different countries, in Western countries as well as in Muslim majority countries, have experienced censorship. So it is very difficult sometimes to talk about the here and now, what's happening right now in Gaza, for instance, or in the West Bank. However, if you sort of imagine the possible future, right? If you imagine what could Gaza, what could the West Bank be like in 50 years' time, in 100 years' time, then perhaps you're much less constrained by current politics. Muslim authors have, Arabic authors have made use of the freedom provided by science fiction here. Now, are there sort of any religious dogmas that would maybe constrain that freedom, that maybe would limit what Muslim scientists could research, or what Muslim science fiction authors could talk about? I mentioned that Saudi Arabia has been dominated by a very conservative form of Sunni Islam called Wahhabism, Da'wah al-Wahhabiyya in Arabic. This movement is known for a very sort of literalist, purist interpretation of the Quran. Obviously, because of Saudi Arabia controls Mecca and Medina, Saudi interpretations of Islam have been especially influential, and that includes, for instance, a Saudi edition and translation of the Quran from around 1989, 1990, where you have in English a verse at the beginning of the Quran being translated as "Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds." And in this Saudi edition of the Quran by the King Fahd Holy Quran Printing Complex, an official government organization, here it says under footnote 20, The word Rabb, usually translated Lord, has all the meaning of cherishing, sustaining, bringing to maturity. Allah cares for all the worlds He has created. So here, the Saudi edition of the Quran was supporting the idea that there's more than one world. Another verse here says in the English translation, and among His signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth and the living creatures that He has scattered through them. And He has power to gather them together when He wills. In the last footnote on this page, 4569, it says, life is not confined to our one little planet. It is a very old speculation to imagine some life like human life on the planet Mars. Though no scientific demonstration is possible, it is reasonable to suppose that life in some form or other scattered through some of the millions of heavenly bodies scattered through space. What a wonderful sign of Allah, the Almighty, who created such countless beings, has surely the power to bring them together. So here in this official Saudi translation of the Quran, the Quran affirms that there's life in the universe, and not only that, it would also be proof of the existence of God and of God being all-powerful. Now, Wahhabism in Saudi Arabia is only one current in Islam. There are other currents as well. But when it comes to aliens, there is a lot of consensus, even involving people who are very distant from the Wahhabi tradition. And that includes the Ahmadiyya Muslim community that has come not out of the Arabian Peninsula, but out of South Asia. One of the previous leaders, Mirza Tahir Ahmad of the Ahmadiyya community, he published a book in 1998, Revelation, Rationality, Knowledge, and Truth, that includes an entire chapter on the Quran and extraterrestrial life, where one of the verses is, Allah is He who created 7 heavens, and of the earth the like thereof. So you have 7 earths, and if you remember, like the TRAPPIST-1 discovery, right, where you have 7 Earth-like planets, one could imagine, right, with Quranic verses that speak of 7 Earths, if you find a planetary system where you indeed have 7 Earths, that maybe that has a special resonance with people. And another verse he has translated among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and of whatever living creatures, or daba in Arabic, he has spread forth in both. And later in the book, the Mirza Tahir Ahmad, the head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, said that the second part of the same verse speaks not only of the possibility of extraterrestrial life, but it categorically declares that it does exist, a claim which even the most modern scientific researchers have not been able to make so far with any measure of certainty. So here you have Islamic interpretations very much allowing and supporting the idea that there's more than one world and that there is life scattered throughout the universe. So if Islam and Islamic scripture is often read that way and as being so supportive of the idea of science fiction, ideas of multiple worlds, we shouldn't be surprised then that we could also find Islamic UFO religions or movements centered on Islam as well as UFOs. One of them is the Nation of Islam, an African-American new religious movement that has the idea of a mother plane or a mother wheel, a UFO-like spaceship that is meant to bring salvation to African-American Muslims. There's a lot of literature on this topic. Or there's another also African-American Muslim movement called the Nuwaubian Nation, where you have literature about a man from planet Rizq, so a man from a different planet, Rizq being an Arabic term. And here in this particular scripture or scroll by this African-American new religious movement, you have a lot of references to the Quran as well as other scriptures. Here you can see there's Greek in the text, there's Hebrew, but there's also Arabic. And those kinds of new religious movements, sometimes heterodox organizations, groups that have emerged over the last decades, they exist in various different contexts, including also Turkey. There's, for instance, the World Brotherhood Union, Mevlana Supreme Foundation. Mevlana here refers to Rumi, a very, very famous poet. This particular movement also combines extraterrestrial mythology, especially about the power of the star Sirius, and Islam, here especially Sufism. So Mevlana Rumi was an important poet, but also a Sufi sheikh. With Islamic scripture being so supportive of the idea of possible life in the universe, it's also then not surprising that we find a lot of literature that uses science fiction terms. So there is Al-Kawkab al-Ajib, the Wondrous Planet, by an Egyptian doctor, where the dedication is to every Arab and Islamic leader, ila kul za'im Arabi Islami, and it ends with a Quranic verse. Or there is work from Malaysia, again, a very important Muslim country, majority country, Galaxy of Muhsineen, Galaxy of the Virtuous. And here you see a lot of Islamic terms from Islamic scripture and Islamic history being used as part of world building. So we have planets named after chapters or surahs in the Quran. Chapters like Anfal or Furqan or Hadid or Adiyat. We have the spaceships like a Saifullah carrier, Saifullah meaning the sword of Allah or sword of God, or an Asadullah cruiser, Asad meaning lion, so the lion of God, the Asad of Allah cruiser. We have a Nur or AK-470 rifle, sort of inspired by the Arabic word for light, Nur, as well as the AK-47, prominent rifle that was used by a lot of resistance movements in the 20th century across the world. There's a Muslim caliph called Zulqarnain, after a Quranic figure, and there's even a taqwa algorithm, taqwa being the Arabic word for piety. So this kind of brings us back to full circle to Western science fiction franchises, right? So if George Lucas, for instance, used the name of a Tunisian town like Tatooine for the name of a planet, if Frank Herbert in Dune uses a lot of Arabic words to sort of create a plausible Muslim world, a plausible exotic alien world, then of course there is even more possibility for Muslims to also use Islamic heritage, Islamic scripture, Islamic history to engage in world building, right? Use words, use concepts from Islamic history, from the scripture itself, to build exciting science fiction works as well. To conclude, astrobiology and science fiction in the Muslim world, there is a lot of vibrancy in both fields. We have important research engaged on both exoplanets as well as on planets and moons in our solar system. There is a lot of creativity by Muslim artists, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's in films, or whether it is in novels featuring alien worlds. And there aren't really any constraints imposed by either politics or religion here. So the Quran itself is very much in support of the idea that, well, God is all powerful. He could have created all kinds of worlds and could have created all kinds of life. And even the strangest beings could be proofs of God's omnipotence. And when it comes to politics, so science fiction has also been an outlet, right, where you can talk about difficult political topics, where you can talk about the invasion of Iraq, where you can talk about Palestine, for instance, and colonialism, and you can do so in a safe space, away from sort of the present day reality of politics. I'll leave you here. I would be more than happy to answer any questions. I would like to thank Gloria again for having me, and also Emad-Din Aisha, who has collaborated with me a lot, including on one of the books here, Islamic Theology and Extraterrestrial Life. And I want to thank you once more, and I'm more than happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. There's so much there that it'll take me weeks to read my notes and go through it all. I'm very, very impressed with the substantive talk. Now, could we have any questions? If you want to just raise your hand, or
I think there's a question already in the chat.
Is there a question? I see a couple things in the chat. I didn't have time to look. Okay.
Do Arabic writers use Western English words to seem exotic? Yeah. So I mentioned like two of those words in the Galaxy Mohsenin book. One was a futuristic Uzi submachine gun. So the Uzi, that's an Israeli weapon here that sort of has a future life in sort of a science fiction universe. And there was also a faction called the Reconquista Confederation. Now, Reconquista was a Spanish term for the reconquest of the Iberian Peninsula. So where Christian kings reconquered Iberia from Muslim domination. So here you have sort of an Israeli word as well as a Spanish word being used sort of as part of the world building for like a novel in particular. So yes, definitely there are sort of Western words. You ask about English words. It's a good question. I mean, they obviously, right? Hollywood itself is English, and so Hollywood itself obviously has a huge influence on science fiction globally. So I'm not sure to what extent English words might always be exotic, but they're definitely there. Right, sort of whether it's astrophysical terms, right, whether it's words like black hole or wormhole and so on, right. Sometimes these kinds of words, they exist just in English or in a very, very literal Arabic translation. But yeah, you can. There's a lot of English and Western terms in Arabic sci-fi.
Very good question. I'm going to ask you something about Malta. You lived on Malta, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I studied at the University of Malta.
Okay. And did you know that Ray Bradbury's miniseries, The Martian Chronicles from the 1980s, used the sculpture garden. Now, I don't know where this is. It's somewhere on Malta with the huge cement geometric shapes and a very barren looking, under them. It's some sculpture garden on Malta that was the basis for the Martian cities in Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles. Do you know where that sculpture garden is?
I'm not sure, actually. It is very interesting. I did not know about this, but in some ways I'm not surprised, also because Malta is a place between worlds. So it is an island between Italy and Libya. So it is between Europe and North Africa. Malta. The Maltese have their own native language called Maltese, which at its core is actually an Arabic dialect, so a medieval Arabic dialect that developed independently from the rest of Arabic under very strong Italian and then later English influences. And of course, Malta has been predominantly Christian for like almost 1,000 years as well. So it's a very interesting case of a Christian country with a native language that is essentially an Arabic dialect. And of course, right, until today you have a lot of connections between to North Africa. You have a lot of like refugees, for instance, from North Africa, from Libya, arriving on the shores of Malta, and so on. So Malta is itself sort of a place between the Western world and the Islamic world.
I think Ray Bradbury knew that, and I hope you'll be able to check out that mini series on YouTube. I believe it's free, and you can also get it in Prime. It's called The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. I see that Patricia,
yeah,
has her hand up.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Gloria, and thanks, Professor Determann. That was great. I too have pages of notes. Can I ask two questions, if it's all right?
Please.
There's the one of them is maybe too wide, and maybe you and I can have a conversation about that some other time. But one of them I think is straightforward. My background is in dystopia, Anglophone dystopias, and I was surprised when I came to Oman and started reading Arabic science fiction. I was surprised by how popular dystopia was here, and the research I've done has suggested that it's only really in the 21st century that science fiction in general and dystopian fiction has, developed such momentum. And I was just wondering if that has been, when you're doing your own research, which seems to be harder science fiction, or what used to be called hard sci-fi, have you experienced the same, that the public, the reading public for science fiction has exploded in the 21st century specifically? And then the bigger question, which you can feel free to ignore, I get uneasy sometimes about using the vocabulary developed by Anglophone science fiction studies, in particular utopian studies, to explore the political meanings of Arabic science fiction. And I'm wondering, have you ever felt any of that unease yourself? And if there's, if you have colleagues or you're in your own work who have come across an Arabic literary critical tradition of interpreting these, the Arabic science fiction works that you read.
Thank you so much. These are really, really great questions. So the first question, right, was whether like dystopian science fiction is a more recent emergence, right?
Yeah.
I think it seems so. So obviously, right, fantastical literature itself is not a new thing in the Arab world, right? We just have to think about the 1001 Nights, right? The Arabian Nights. So that's incredibly popular folk tales, but that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, like in the sort of entire area, right, of like South Asia and Iran, and then the Arabian world. And of course, the Arabian Nights influenced the development of European novels. They influenced people like Jules Verne, and then Jules Verne also then influenced Hollywood, of course. And then you have the influence back from Hollywood on Arab filmmakers and so on. Then I think you do have a lot of you did have a lot of optimism in the 20th century. So technological optimism when it comes to like when it comes to Arab nationalism in the 1950s, 1960s, in Egypt, for instance, this post-colonial moment, this moment of independence, where yes, maybe Arab countries, especially those Arab countries, those Arab countries that were part of like the non-aligned movement, like Egypt, maybe they could forge a different kind of modernity. So not an Eastern Bloc kind of modernity, not a Western Bloc modernity, but like a third path. So there was a lot of optimism of that. There's still a lot of optimism, I think, in the Gulf states in particular about the future. There are lots of futuristic mega projects in the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia as well, projects like NEOM. So there is still sort of a positive look at the future. However, sort of ever since the 1990s, 2000s, in many Arab countries, there have also been a lot of pessimism, right? So countries like Egypt, countries like Syria, Libya, Palestine, Yemen, Sudan, Iraq, right, where you've had sort of conflicts, occupation, like settler colonialism, and so on, right? And where, many people, young people in places like Syria, for instance, or Egypt, or Palestine, Gaza, and so on, right? They felt, right, that maybe they were living through a kind of dystopia. Where and maybe that's why this particular literature sort of resonates with them, right? So a lot of young people in the Arab world, yes, they feel sort of marginalized politically, socially, and so on, right? So they feel in some ways that they're living through a dystopia, and hence they also like to read about it. But then you mentioned sort of whether there's an Arabic literary tradition in like analyzing like dystopia or science fiction. There are definitely Arabic science fiction scholars in Syria, for instance, Talib Omran. In Egypt, there are a number of them. I mentioned my colleague Emad Eddin Aisha, who is also part of this group, who gave a talk a year ago, and I think Gloria may have recorded that particular talk as well. That's Emad Eddin Aisha, and like he can sort of tell you more about. But there's in general, like literary criticism in Arabic is a very well-established field, and that also includes at least some literary analysis of science fiction. Now, science fiction scholars in Egypt and other places, they have complained that sometimes their genre is not considered high literature. It's not considered as sort of the same literary quality as sort of realist fiction. That is a problem perhaps shared with science fiction authors elsewhere. I'm not sure actually whether an author who's primarily known for science fiction has ever won the Nobel Prize for Literature. If somebody knows a science fiction author who has won a Nobel Prize, somebody who is who's primarily known for science fiction and has not, so science fiction is still sort of struggling to be recognized, just like in Western countries too. Like for instance, you very, very rarely have professorships in science fiction studies. You have professorships in English, you have professorships in English literature or film studies, but very rarely a professorship in science fiction studies. Same is true in Arabic. So there is, so the field is still struggling, but there is definitely Arabic language literary criticism of science fiction. Right, I mentioned the Arabic term for science fiction is al-khayal al-ilmi, which means the scientific imagination. So sometimes the Arabic terms that are being used have sort of different meanings or different connotations than English terms. Thank you, Gloria, for posting the link in our chat.
Okay. There's Imad's talk, and I don't know, because I was busy getting that link. Did you see John Ryder's question to everyone? I'll read it for you. Much Western science fiction is based on the common people's overcoming an authoritarian regime, Fremen, Harkonnens, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader. Does this present problems for Qatari or other Islamic sci-fi writers? Did you already answer that? I don't know.
That's a good question. So, yeah, you mentioned the Fremen, the Harkonnen, right? So these are from Dune in particular. Now, Dune has been inspired by Middle Eastern cultures, like I mentioned. The Dune movies have also been partly shot in Arabian deserts, and they have been found very popular. And there are indeed lots of tropes that sort of very much resonate with people in the Middle East, right? The Dune is in part about the struggle for spice, this resource for interstellar navigation. And a lot of Middle Eastern people obviously recognize spice as a metaphor for oil, right? That's just like oil is central for navigation on Earth. Spice is central for navigation in the universe. This idea, right, that you would have an empire that takes control of the spice, right? That an empire that also like plays different royal houses against one another. I think this is something that, again, like lots of people in the Arab world would sort of would recognize, that would resonate with them, just like, let's say, in the 20th century, they would look at how, let's say, the American Empire or the British Empire has played different dynasties, different royal families in the Arab world sort of against one another, and sort of in an effort to control oil. So just like, of course, the emperor in Dune sort of has tried to play the House of Atreides against the House of Harkonnen and so on, in an effort like to control this resource. So I think I think this these kinds of themes, like struggling against an empire, struggling against corrupt rulers as well. I think that resonates with a lot of people. You mentioned whether it presents a problem. I think it's in many ways it actually presents an avenue for writers, right? So if you are in an authoritarian country, right, where you feel you can't criticize your rulers directly, you can't criticize your kings personally, just like, for instance, in the United Kingdom, right? If you're in a lot of monarchies where you can't insult the ruler in particular, but sort of if you instead of like talking about your own country in the here and now, if you can talk about a different planet in the distant past or distant future, right? Then you can actually make statements and explore political ideas that would be very, very difficult in realist literature. So rather than a problem, I think science fiction here offers spaces of freedom where you can talk about politics.
I was trying to, for example, in the Soviet Union, their dream of communism ended in a absolute dictatorship by Stalin. And so I was teaching English as a second language in Prague for a while, and they told me that all during that era, people had to use allegory and metaphor. They couldn't directly talk about the corruption of the communist regime that was ruling over the country, but they could indirectly talk about it, but they had to tiptoe around. So, for example, in Shostakovich's this Leningrad Symphony, it was traditionally said that the two recurring themes, rising and falling, are supposed to represent the Russian peasants rising up against the German military Nazi war machine. But since this Soviet Union ended, many people have come to the conclusion that it's really about the Russian people suffering under the regime of Stalin rising up against his military war machine and his purges and crushing of any dissent. So I was wondering if do people, do Islamic writers sometimes have to tiptoe around making sure that they don't say anything that's authoritarian in a way that might possibly get them in trouble?
Thank you. I think like I said, it's like across the Arab world, it's very, very difficult to attack a specific ruler or a specific minister personally, right? Sort of if you sort of go on Twitter, go on X, or sort of write a book in which sort of you attack the current ruler, you name them, and so on, that could sort of get you into deep trouble. However, if you sort of write a book about Mars and you talk about the corrupt regime on Mars, or the ideal regime of Mars, that's maybe so much better than the regime on Earth. If you talk about Mars having the ideal Islamic regime, then maybe you can express, for instance, ideas of like the Muslim Brotherhood, which you wouldn't be able to express in Egypt in a sort of more, let's say, in a newspaper. And you would have plausible deniability, right? So if somebody came to you and said, "Well, you're attacking here a corrupt government in a science fiction novel," then you as a writer can always say, "Well, can't you say I'm not talking about our country, I'm talking about Mars? And can't you see, right? I'm not talking about the present, I'm talking about the 25th century," and so on. So you do have plausible deniability, and while a country like Egypt or a country like the United Arab Emirates has certainly had a lot of political prisoners, and you've had a lot of intellectuals, for instance, in Egyptian prisons over the decades. There has also been sort of leeway, nonetheless, to express ideas in science fiction forms, and some science fiction works have even been written in prison. So yeah, there's maybe sometimes more leeway than one would expect.
So I see that my son, Chris, I'm giving him a lot of emoticons here, found whoever in Japan, Kazuo Ishiguro, won a Nobel for a dystopian speculative fiction.
All right.
That's close, close enough, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for
Yeah.
looking that up. That's good to know, and maybe that shows that science fiction has indeed become sort of more recognized, more acceptable. I wish we could have, for instance, professorships, chairs in science fiction studies, and so on. But maybe having a Nobel Prize for a speculative fiction author, maybe that helps in that journey.
I'm going to call on Starlet Swan because I don't know how long Starlet has had a hand up, and then John, and I guess those are the two hands, John Ryder and Starlet. So you want to take Starlet first? Starlet, do you have a question?
I don't know if there's a question in it, but okay, I can ask, but I already know the answer. But I would like for the whole group to know the answer. So, do you know about the influence of Arabs in the Renaissance?
Here the influence, right, of like Arab and sort of Muslim intellectual scientists and so on, their ideas on the European Renaissance in like the 15th and the 16th century.
No. So I'm just going to share this because I think you would like to know.
Sure.
So in the 13th century, King Alfonso X, he was known as El Sabio, the wise. I grew up in Spain, so I had to study this. The thing is that what happened at that time is that there were Christians, Muslims, and Jewish. And he got them together, and he got the Jewish people to translate between the Arabs and the Christians. So when he did that, it turns out that because it was the Dark Ages, the knowledge from the Greek had been destroyed or lost, but it was kept by the Arabs. So when it was translated, then it came to be in Spain on the Christian side. And from there, that knowledge of the ancient Greeks went back into Europe, into the hands of Copernicus, into the hands of Galileo, and is what triggered the change from the Dark Ages to the Renaissance and to science and all the discoveries that came from it. So I thought that was important to know.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that.
Very important.
Yeah.
If it wouldn't have been because Arabs cherished the knowledge and preserved it and then kept studying it and share it, the Renaissance wouldn't have happened.
Quite true.
Yeah. Thank
So,
you. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much for bringing that out. Some people may already know it, but maybe some are not aware of that. And John Ryder, could you come up with you don't have another question that was a leftover hand, I guess. So I don't want to abuse our speaker's time. We're at an hour and a half almost now. So I'm sure he has other things to get on to today. So we would like to thank you very much for your time and your presentation. And those of you that have questions, you can, are you willing to put your email or some contact way to get to you in the chat?
Absolutely.
If you're willing. I mean, if you have
totally. I would be more than happy to.
And then be sure to download chat. If you go to while you're doing that, I'll tell them the 3 dots, let you into chat on my machine. And then at the top, there are 3 dots, and one of them is save chat.
Yeah, there's my work email, jmdetermann@vcu.edu. I also give you my personal email address. That's determann@hotmail.co.uk. And if you search for my name, you can also find me on like various social media sites. If you so feel free to connect with me on like.
Fast interruption. Is there an error in that email because you have Hotmail rather than Hotmail?
Oh yes, you're right. Thank you so much. I'll fix that right away.
Might click, they might click on that and copy it, and then they'll wonder why they're not reaching you.
Thank you so much. You've got very good eyes. Wonderful.
Thank you. And I hope this has been as wonderful for everyone else as it was for all 3 of us in the family here who from various places across the country have attended. And thank you for coming. Don't miss, next month we have Lila, is it Lila? Or I'll have to find that out. Lila Gaushi from Egypt, who's going to be speaking on women's futures in the Muslim world, science fiction. So that will be on December 4th. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, I would like to say that in Kansas, there is a professor of speculative fiction. His name is Chris McCartney, and you can find them at Ad Astra. Is
I'll look him up. Maybe a future speaker, Chris McCartney.
Yes, and he's fantastic.
I will look that up.
I'm one of his alumni, and he's amazing.
All right, and he's at U of Kansas?
Yes.
Okay.
1 second, I think I can put it, I can check in my contacts.
Well, Starlet Swan, I'd appreciate that. Saves me a few minutes here. I'll cancel that leaving thing and stick around a minute. Get into chat here.
So this is his email, so you can contact him. And 1 second, so I can put the Ad Astra. Here we go.
Great.
I was trying to think of some new speakers, as it turns out. Going to be good.
And there you have the Ad Astra.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about speculative fiction.
Okay. Ad Astra SF. Okay, and well, thank you once again, and I guess we'll all take off to our zoom off to our planets of choice now. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you so much. You too.
Bye-bye.